The moment we have been dreading is finally here. And if you thought previous seasons of The Chosen were emotional, Season 6 is about to take everything to a completely different level. Because this time we are not just watching a story unfold, we are witnessing the most painful, powerful, and unforgettable chapter ever brought to the screen. The crucifixion is no longer something far away. It is here. And after watching the first trailer, I can honestly say, I am not ready for what is coming. In this first look at The Chosen Crucifixion trailer Season 6, everything immediately feels heavier, darker, and far more intense than anything we have seen before. The tone has completely shifted. There is this constant feeling that something terrible is about to happen, and no matter how much we wish things could change, deep down we already know the outcome. That is what makes this trailer so powerful. It does not just show us events, it makes us feel the weight of every single moment leading up to them. From the very first scene, we see the tension building as Jesus stands surrounded by those who no longer see him as a teacher, but as a threat. And honestly, the silence in these moments says more than words ever could. What really stood out to me is how the trailer focuses on the emotional state of every character. You can see fear, confusion, and heartbreak in the eyes of the disciples. These are people who have followed Jesus, believed in him, and now they are watching everything fall apart right in front of them. And I think that is what will make this season so difficult to watch. It is not just about what happens to Jesus, it is about what happens to everyone around him. The pain is shared, and you can already feel it building in every frame of the trailer. At the same time, there is this quiet strength in Jesus that makes every scene even more powerful. Even when he is surrounded, even when he is questioned, even when everything is turning against him, he remains calm. And I truly believe that this portrayal is going to be one of the most emotional performances we have ever seen in the series. There is something incredibly moving about watching someone who knows what is coming and still chooses to face it without fear. That alone makes these moments almost unbearable to watch, because you realize that every step he takes is leading him closer to the inevitable. Another thing that the trailer does incredibly well is building suspense without revealing everything. We see glimpses of key moments, but nothing is fully shown. And that creates this constant tension where you are trying to connect the pieces, while also preparing yourself for what is about to happen. The interrogations, the accusations, the rising anger of the crowd. It is all there, slowly building toward something much bigger. And even though we already know the story, the way it is presented here makes it feel new, unpredictable, and honestly terrifying. I also noticed how the music plays a huge role in shaping the atmosphere. It starts off slow and heavy, almost like a warning, and then gradually becomes more intense as the trailer progresses. By the end, it feels overwhelming, as if everything is collapsing at once. And paired with the visuals, it creates a feeling that is hard to describe. A mix of anticipation, fear, and deep sadness. It is the kind of trailer that stays with you even after it ends, because you cannot stop thinking about what is coming next. And honestly, what makes all of this even more impactful is the journey we have been on with these characters. We have seen their growth, their struggles, their faith. And now we are about to see them at their lowest point. That emotional connection is what will make Season 6 truly unforgettable. Because this is not just another chapter in the story. This is the moment everything changes. The moment that will test every belief, every relationship, and every ounce of strength these characters have. So as we move forward, one question keeps coming to my mind. Are we really ready to watch this? Because if the trailer is anything to go by, Season 6 is not just going to be emotional, it is going to be heartbreaking in a way that we have never experienced before. And I honestly do not know how I will be able to watch these moments unfold. But at the same time, I cannot look away as the trailer continues. The tension rises to a level that feels almost unbearable, and we begin to see how everything slowly starts falling into place in the most tragic way possible. What really stands out here is the shift from uncertainty to decision. In the beginning, there is still this small sense that maybe something could change, that maybe someone will step in and stop what is happening. But as the trailer moves forward, that hope begins to disappear. The religious leaders are no longer questioning Jesus to understand him. They are determined to condemn him. And you can feel that shift in every interaction. The questions become sharper, the tone becomes colder, and the atmosphere becomes heavier with every passing moment. One of the most powerful parts of this section is the way the confrontations are portrayed. There is no chaos at first, no shouting, just controlled tension. And that makes it even more intense. When Jesus is questioned about his identity and his teachings, there is a calmness in his responses that feels almost unreal. At the same time, the people around him are starting to lose control. The leaders are growing frustrated because they cannot find a solid accusation that holds. The false witnesses do not agree with each other. Their stories fall apart. And yet the desire to punish Jesus does not go away. If anything, it becomes stronger. And this is where the trailer really begins to show how unfair everything is. It is not about truth anymore, it is about reaching a decision no matter what. And that creates a feeling of helplessness, not just for the characters, but for us as viewers as well. We also start to see how deeply this is affecting the disciples. There is confusion in their eyes, fear in their actions, and this growing realization that things are not going to end the way they hoped. They have followed Jesus, trusted him, believed in what he was building, and now they are watching him being treated like a criminal. And I think this emotional contrast is going to be one of the strongest parts of Season 6. Because while Jesus remains calm and steady, the people who love him are falling apart inside. And that difference makes every scene even more heartbreaking. Another moment that really caught my attention is how silence is used throughout this part of the trailer. There are pauses that feel longer than they actually are, looks that say more than words ever could, and moments where no one speaks, yet everything is understood. It is in these quiet seconds that the weight of the situation truly hits, because sometimes it is not what is said that hurts the most, it is what is left unsaid. And the trailer uses this perfectly to build suspense and emotional depth at the same time. As we move closer to the end of this section, it becomes clear that the situation is reaching a breaking point. The anger of the leaders, the pressure of the crowd, and the silence of Jesus all come together to create this overwhelming sense that there is no turning back anymore. The decision is not official yet, but you can feel it coming. And that is what makes this part of the trailer so powerful. It is not about the final moment, it is about everything leading up to it. The slow, painful realization that the outcome we feared is now unavoidable. And honestly, watching all of this unfold, I cannot help but feel a deep sense of tension and sadness at the same time. Because even though we know this story, seeing it presented in such a raw and emotional way makes it feel completely new, feels real, feels immediate, and it makes you question how you would react if you were there in that moment. Would you stay silent? Would you speak up? Or would you, like so many others, feel powerless in the face of something you cannot stop? This is exactly why this trailer works so well. It does not rush through these moments. It takes its time, allowing every emotion to settle in, allowing every scene to breathe. And by doing that, it pulls you deeper into the story, making it impossible to look away. Because at this point, you are no longer just watching what is happening, you are feeling it. And that feeling only continues to grow stronger as we move closer to the most devastating moments of all. And then, as the trailer moves forward, everything reaches a point where the situation is no longer just tense, it becomes deeply personal and completely unavoidable. This is where we begin to see the political side of the story take full control, and the focus shifts toward the Roman authority. The moment Jesus is brought before Pontius Pilate, the atmosphere changes once again. It is no longer just about religious accusations, it becomes a matter of power, control, and public pressure. When Pilate asks Jesus if he is the king of the Jews, there is a moment of silence that feels incredibly heavy. And once again, Jesus responds with calmness, with a simplicity that carries so much meaning. He does not argue, he does not defend himself in a way that would change the outcome. And I think that is what makes this interaction so emotional. Because Pilate is looking for something, anything that could justify letting him go, but Jesus does not give him that. Instead, he stays true to who he is, even if it means walking straight toward his fate. At the same time, the pressure from the crowd continues to grow. This is something the trailer shows very clearly. The voices become louder, the demands become more aggressive, and the situation quickly starts slipping out of control. It is no longer about justice, it is about satisfying the crowd. And that is where things begin to feel truly heartbreaking, because you realize that even someone who might want to do the right thing can be forced into making the wrong decision when the pressure becomes too great. We also see how Pilate tries to avoid responsibility. There is this moment where it feels like he is searching for a way out, a way to pass the decision on to someone else. And that is when Jesus is sent to Herod. Now this part of the trailer has a very different kind of energy. There is almost a sense of mockery in the way Herod approaches the situation. Unlike Pilate, who seems conflicted, Herod appears curious, almost entertained. He wants to see something, a miracle, a sign that would prove Jesus is who people claim he is. But when Jesus refuses to perform for him, the tone quickly shifts. What could have been a moment of curiosity turns into humiliation. Herod and his men begin to mock him, to treat him as if he is nothing more than a joke. And honestly, this part is very difficult to watch, even in the short glimpses we get from the trailer. And once again, Jesus does not react. He remains silent, holding on to that same calm strength we have seen throughout the trailer. As Jesus is sent back to Pilate, you can feel that everything is closing in. There are no more delays, no more chances to change what is coming. The final decision is getting closer, and the weight of it is felt in every second of the trailer. Pilate now looks even more pressured than before. The crowd is louder, the demands are clearer, and the situation has reached a point where there is almost no escape. And this is where the emotional intensity becomes almost overwhelming. Another detail that really stands out here is how the trailer shows the contrast between power and helplessness. On one side, you have leaders, rulers, and crowds who seem to hold all the power. And on the other side, you have Jesus standing alone, silent, and yet somehow stronger than all of them. That contrast is incredibly powerful because it challenges what we think strength really is. And I believe this is something that will leave a deep impact on viewers when they watch the full season. By the end of this section, there is this overwhelming feeling that everything has already been decided, even if the final words have not been spoken yet. The tension, the pressure, the silence. It all comes together to create a moment that feels like the calm before the storm. And honestly, I do not know how anyone can watch this part of the story without feeling a deep sense of sadness and anticipation at the same time. Because we all know what is coming next. And the trailer is making sure we feel every step leading up to it. And then, the trailer reaches the moment where everything finally breaks. The hesitation is gone, the questioning is over, and the final decision begins to take shape right in front of us. This is where the weight of the story becomes almost too much to handle. Because we are no longer asking what will happen. We are watching it unfold. Pilate stands at the center of it all, torn between what he believes and what the crowd is demanding. And honestly, you can feel that this is the moment that will define everything that comes next. There is this powerful shift when Pilate presents the crowd with a choice. For a brief second, it feels like there is still a chance, like maybe things could turn in a different direction. He offers them an option, a way out, a way to release Jesus. But the reaction from the crowd changes everything. Their voices rise, stronger and more unified, demanding the release of Barabbas instead. And in that moment, any remaining hope disappears. It is no longer about justice or truth. It becomes a moment driven entirely by pressure, fear, and the overwhelming force of the crowd. What makes this scene so heartbreaking is not just the decision itself, but how quickly everything turns. One moment there is still uncertainty and the next the outcome is clear. And you can see it on Pilate's face. That realization that there is no way to control what is happening anymore. The power he thought he had slips away, replaced by the need to satisfy the crowd at any cost. And that is when he makes the choice that will change everything. The moment Pilate symbolically washes his hands is something that the trailer builds up with incredible intensity. It is quiet, almost too quiet, and yet it carries so much meaning. Without saying much, he is distancing himself from what is about to happen, trying to remove his responsibility from the decision. But at the same time, we all know that this act does not change the outcome. It does not stop what is coming.